Welcome to the 13th episode of Kabbalistic Mystic, the podcast for the Western Seeker, where we explore the Tree of Life and the ancient Hebrew wisdom as the lost spiritual heritage of the West. I'm your host, Batat. Keeping a journal is one of the most powerful tools for self-transformation. It allows us to have a friend who cannot and will not judge us, a personal mirror to witness ourselves in the moment and over time, and a way to access our subconscious safely and intimately. Personally, I've journaled for years and years, mostly in bad time, but it was only in the last few years that my relationship with the journal has matured into a new level. And it was following an online course I took. It was called Zen to Paper. Even as an experienced journaler, I found that I discovered many tips and techniques which helped me eliminate various judgments that I have about my own writing practice. It allowed me to access my subconscious mind in new and unique ways and utilize the power of intention to make the practice more potent. Today, I'll be hosting a special guest with which I'll discuss the power of journaling. We'll discuss the role of journaling in our psycho-spiritual evolution, and my guest will also list many of these techniques and tips that I was talking about for us. And just a quick logistical note, I am leaving for a summer vacation during which I will not be producing any new episodes. And so the 14th episode of Kabbalistic Mystic will be released on August 21st. All right, let's begin. You are a loser, Ovadia. You will never actually write this book, or any book for that matter. You sit and study all day, you plan and dream, but you got nothing to show for it. You think you're the shit. You think you are so smart, but in reality, you're nothing but a hot air balloon. You've destroyed every good patch of grass in your garden, killing relationships, never following through on your word. You said you'll go to see Mildred and never showed up again. You said you'll take David around the park and did it only once. You will quit everything, including the woodworking, because you have nothing to do. You're lazy and you're a little kid who's refusing to mature. Look at you sitting outside writing like you're on a cruise when you didn't make a dime for over 3 years. Your business is dying. Just like another one more myth of your imagination. You're allowing your money to drain at the speed of light. Soon you'll have nothing left. You, Ovadia, are a loser. I recognize him, my superego, but I don't believe him. What he says scares me, but I have to be present. It's not like I have a choice. There is no getting off of this train at this point. There's the reality from a different perspective, which I will now write. I am studying what I need to know and enjoying it. Astrology, the Enneagram, Tarot, the Tree of Life, everything that's important to me. I'm enjoying woodworking. The process is happening. I'm not supposed to know what will happen. I'm not supposed to create any of these books. I'm not supposed to write my book right now. Definitely not to make money. In fact, I'm not even done studying. Bottom line is, I'm okay. It's scary, and I'm in no doubt lost, but at the same time, I am a success. After all, I know myself the best I've ever known. This was an entry from my own personal journal during the time I emerged from a period I can best describe as the dark night of the soul. It was an exercise I did in allowing the superego, that is, the part of our ego which watches us and continuously criticizes us, to speak to paper. And the idea is that by allowing it to vent its frustrations with me, it will stop to constantly harass and torment me in my mind. And I got to say, it worked pretty well. Like any form of art, journaling is powerful because it allows us to access the subconscious mind. The more we write without thinking, the more information we can channel directly from under our conscious awareness. It's a practice, something we get better at the more we do it. That's why it's called practice. In earlier episodes, we discussed the flow of cosmic energy in us. We spoke about the fact that this energy animates us. It starts as a seed of thought, becomes a seed of emotion, and then turns into a seed of action. Every imbalance between the masculine and feminine inner polarities contributes to our thoughts, emotions, and action. The delicate balance between our inner polarities animates us continuously. When we have excess masculine or feminine energy, it manifests as intense emotion. We must channel it into a productive action in order to release it. Otherwise, it's just accumulating within and can cause us to explode at some point. There are many ways to release this energy: cry, laugh, do art, exercise, do work. Journaling is yet another method, but a powerful one, since it allows us to reflect on those emotions, thoughts, and actions as we release them to paper or to the world. Furthermore, self-reflection is critical for our evolutionary process. Without it, we cannot learn to know ourselves. So keeping a journal is cathartic, it's revealing, it's stimulating. It allows us to inspire ourselves and provide us with a safe container for self-exploration. So not only are we going through the transformation, but we are studying our own transformation as a tool to enhance and to learn from our mistakes and to evolve on our path for liberation. Our guest today is Diane Sherman, my own teacher of creative expression. Diane is a teacher and an artist. For the last 25 years, Diane taught yoga, Ayurveda, and various forms of creative expression, including journaling. She was the teacher of Zen to Paper, the journaling class I took online. Diane holds a master's degree of arts and consciousness from JFK University. Her mission is to help people live life as authentically as possible and to obtain inner and outer freedom. Diane is also my beloved wife of 9 years. She's one of the most relentless seekers I know, and I'm honored to say she's my highest teacher. The interview you're about to hear was recorded last week. Diane, welcome to Kabbalistic Mystic.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here today. So we'll talk about journaling, which is something you've been doing for many, many years. And I understand that you want to start by reading us from one of your journals.
Yeah, I thought that might be a way to begin. So thanks for having me on the show. And there's, just to preface, there's many ways I use my journal. And this is just one way. What I really want to say is I don't hold the truth trapped in a jar like a firefly anymore, clogged in my throat and squeezed in my belly. No, now I let it out, fly into the world, wings flap hard, sometimes against hot air, but she's free, free to float and glide, free to piss people off, free to not be liked, free to know who likes me when I speak my real thoughts. Otherwise, I'm just stuffing myself in a stuff sack and waiting to explode. And those who don't want to hear it turn away and walk another path. They get out of my way, and that obstacle is taken care of. Done. Oh, I still have trouble with conflict, still have trouble figuring out how to tell people things that may hurt their feelings, but I'm taking my wings and using them to fly.
Thank you. So you said you're using journaling in many different ways, and you've been journaling for a very long time. I know you have a lot of journals. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what journaling is for you and how it helped you on your psychospiritual journey.
Absolutely. I'd love to share. I've been journaling since I was about 10. which, 40 plus years. And journaling has been a way to get to know myself. It's been this very intimate place to look into the questions I have about life, and also the questions I have about who I am, and my ego structure, the places that I get snagged and caught. Because here's the thing, my main interest in life is to become free, to become internally free of the ways that I'm bound. And so writing things down in my journal and getting really honest with myself has been the way that I've actually gotten to know myself. And so I've also been on the yoga path for a long time, for about 20 years. And one of the tenets of yoga is that we study ourselves. And so I found that writing things down in a journal is like, there you have it. You've got those words about your experience and your thoughts and your life to go back and read and reflect on. But I also use, as you know, I'm also an artist, like a visual artist. So I've got kind of two paths that I'm straddling with journaling. There's the creative force that's all visual, and often I'll blend the two, but I find using art journaling accesses a different part of the brain. So it's like when I'm more in an intuitive place or wanting to call in things into my life or do ritual or just kind of have fun in my journal, play with color, whatever. I do the art side, I play with color and dots and scribbles, and it's very free flowing. And then the writing tends to be more structured, and I have a lot of tools and different ways of using writing journaling. But long answer to your question, but ultimately it's been the tool to get to know myself.
So what is it about journaling versus thinking? Okay, if I'm on you were talking about the ego personality, the ego dissolution, to get to know yourself better, and reflect on the pieces where you are getting snagged and all that stuff. What is it about using a journal that is so helpful, in your opinion?
Well, I would say, so for someone like me, I can think and reflect, but then I'm going to forget, because I'm very in the moment and I tend to forget the big picture. So the actual act of writing something down helps me, first of all, remember. And, if there's a lesson that I'm learning from simple things like being out in the world, in nature, and, I often find there's lessons that are constantly happening if I pay attention. Like, oh yeah, the river is always flowing, it's so simple and we know it. But when you actually have the experience of sitting by the river and the water looks the same, but it's all different molecules flowing by you, there's that sense of, oh, the oneness. So when I write it down, and then let's say a year later or 2 years later or 5 years later, 10 years later, then I actually get to see my own development. And one thing I want to say is, in some ways it can feel like this sort of very all about me, somewhat narcissistic kind of thing to just like pay so much attention to yourself and all your little micro moments. But I believe that in studying myself and the evolution of a psyche over the decades of a life, that I am understanding humanity. Like I'm understanding the macro evolution of human beings as we move through, different time of life, like the teen years, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, and then, are we in relationships, and are we married? Do we have children? Do we go through experiencing death? Like, what is all of that like? And so to have it written down and to be able to read again is really powerful.
I also find that writing something down, especially by hand, versus just recording it, so beyond the fact that you want to be able to refer to it later in memory, is also, there's a cathartic, some kind of a physical process that
Yeah.
allows you to kind of get things out.
Absolutely. And I write everything by hand, and then I obviously art is all by hand and drawing. I know people journal in, typing form on the computer. It's, if it works for people, great. I feel a little disconnected with that technology. I like to take what I write in my journal and then move it into, say, a blog piece or an article or a letter or whatever.
Yeah. I guess I'm kind of focusing on that point. Even if people have great memory or don't need the concept of capturing information, journaling still and has a tremendous value. In fact, I find that for me, the central piece of value is not to track information, but rather sort of the journal is kind of my best friend. There's something about, especially in the dark times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what you said too is very true, that the actual physical act of moving it out onto the page, there is somewhat of a catharsis.
Even if you type it, yeah.
Yeah, even if you type it, but and to acknowledge, oh yes, I'm feeling this way. Yes, wow, I just had a moment of rage or intense sadness that was so heavy that I felt like a 100-pound sack of potatoes was on me. It's like, wow. And then there's a release.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about people who don't journal. How would you recommend they start? What would be a good way to start?
Well, I think that the question I would ask is, what's the motivation to begin journaling? So to have a clear motivation is helpful. And there are many reasons that we can journal. It might be to track information. It might be you're going on a big trip and you want to, take notes on that trip. It might be you're in an incredibly transitional time in your life, that your identity is changing and things are falling apart in your psyche and you have no idea who you are or who you're becoming. Those are powerful times to journal, and very helpful because it helps track this falling apart time, and then we come together again as a new person.
And this, I'm just going to say, this is the main topic for us because the listeners of this podcast are, at least the topic is journaling as a tool of transformation. So that's what we're focusing on. And
yeah, so it's very, very powerful. And so let's go with that we are using it as a tool for transformation. Then I would say the first thing is to start to look at journals, like go out and go to the art store, go to the bookstore, look online, hold journals in your hand. It's really important to connect with the journal that you're going to use. And I would also ask myself, like, a couple of things about the journal are, do you like the cover? Is it a plain cover? Do you want to decorate the cover? Do you want a moleskin? Like, there's all these things, right? Hold the journal in your hand, feel the weight of it. Are you going to be traveling? Do you need a certain size? Do you need it to fit into something? Are you going to be home and it doesn't really matter about the size? And these are important. It may seem like, yeah, whatever. But I have bought journals and then that one didn't work, multiple times. So then on the inside, do you want blank pages? So you can just be free form. Do blank pages scare you? Do you need lines, big lines, little tiny, thin, fine lines? Do you want a graph paper? Do you want to make your journal? Like, some people are maybe super artsy already. They want to make the journal that they're going to use. So important to find something you like. And then I'm very particular about the pens that I use. I want a pen that's going to flow and roll over the page that's easy to use. Like if I have a pen that's kind of catchy and snaggy on the page, so breaks my flow. Like it's not fun. And the whole experience, even though, we might be in a dark time, what you said is so important, that the journal becomes our best friend. It's a place to speak your truth. It's a place to cry or rage or be judgmental or say the things that, you wouldn't say to other people. And because really everything that we say is about us, it's not about anybody else. So if we're actually, and I just want to speak to this, if we're writing something about someone else, it's still about you, because you're angry or you're upset or you're triggered. Whenever we're triggered, it's our stuff. And that's the juice. That's the unraveling. When we look at that and start to really chew on, why did I get upset? Why did that bother me? Why is this so challenging? Then we have a peephole into the possibility of getting free.
Yeah, so it sounds like, so we spoke about the journal as a tool of transformation, in the sense that the witnessing of the self, the kind of tracking the progress, having a best friend, which I know for me was extremely important, especially in times of darkness, during a dark night of the soul. It's kind of like, it was the place where I could always go, could always find, the place that I can just talk and say whatever I want. But I also noticed that for me, there were areas, especially in the beginning of my transformation, that I literally had a hard time writing a few things, because they were so bold and so such deep reflection of my own psyche, that they were almost too revealing for me to write. And then I realized that I had a really hard time detaching myself from the notion that somebody might read it. So, there's the privacy issue there, but beyond that, there's just this, how do we detach from that notion of, this is just for me, nobody's ever going to read it. You know what I mean? And get to that place of just freedom.
So this is a big question in journaling, like the sacredness and the privacy issue. And it can be a big block for people, because there are people who've been betrayed as kids or teenagers or young or even adults, where other people have read their journals. And it's pretty scarring when that happens. It hasn't happened in my life, but I've taught journaling, and it has happened with people who've been in my class. And so my recommendation on that is to kind of check in with yourself. What are your concerns? What is a person's concerns about? Is anybody going to read this? Do I live alone? Do I live with other people? What's my relationship with the people that I live with? Are they intimate partners? Are they kids? Are they roommates? How are the boundaries in those relationships? How would it be to sit down with people and say, I'm going to start journaling, and I have a little bit of a trust issue, and it's really scary, or not, or just to say simply, like, this is private for me, and if you see my journal, I don't want you to read it. Now, obviously there's people who might cross that boundary or lie or whatever. And if that's the case, that's a whole different thing. But all we can do is set up our own parameters and be honest with people and ask for what we need. And if you're in relationship with people who won't respect those boundaries, then, maybe you keep it in a safe, or maybe you hide it, and maybe you want to check in with your relationship with those people. So I would say, first and foremost, setting the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the container for yourself to be safe, and then allowing yourself to write what is true. But you bring up a different point, which is it was almost scary for you to write down what your inner world, like what was happening in your inner world, because the ego structure was breaking down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then there's...
And it's like, oh my God, who am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's this layer of you're writing, and you realize that this is not really your true voice. That you're writing without even noticing subconsciously with a voice, as if somebody's going to read it, somebody's going to see it. There's going to be
that protection.
And, for me, it was a real process to get to this point where I can write in a way that is so open, that is so speaking my truth, as if nobody's ever going to read it. Because, and if I may just elaborate on that, and then I realized that if I really think about it, in the back of my mind, buried somewhere, there were actually a few names that I had that were my biggest fear around, what if so-and-so would read this? Especially when I started writing about sexuality, which is, such a sensitive topic for so many people. And I was like, wow, there's these people that you just don't want to see this. And it's abstract. The particular people I didn't want to read my journal are about 8,000 miles away from where I live. So, it's unlikely that something like that would happen. But I even had thoughts, it's sort of like subconscious, right? But even though, what if I die and, like people come and take my stuff? I don't know, whatever, right? So there's all these fears, and it's really impacting the authentic voice of the self.
And right there, you touch on something that I feel journaling moves us towards, that the more real we can get by writing down what is really true for us and owning all those parts of ourselves without apology, then that's the power of, you know what, this is me. And like nobody can throw darts or take down our house of who we are if we own it. And it's like, I can say, I know jealousy, envy, I've been a rager, I've had intense grief, I've been judgmental, and I know all of those emotions. Not to say I'm proud of that, but I'm proud in the sense that, sure, I've acted out in the past, but in exploring those things in my journal, I understand a facet or facets of humanity. And I think that's the thing. If we can look at ourselves, if we can start to really develop that inner witness, that's just watching ourselves like, oh my God, I am going through a massive meltdown here, without judgment, because it's just, it's just an experience. It's just a human experience. Yeah. That's all it is. It is just a human experience, as long as we're not doing harm to anybody. And that's why actually journaling is a great way to process your feelings rather than acting them out. It's great to rage in your journal or be judgmental in your journal. Versus
slamming it on other people.
Yeah.
So it's a way to sort of like
process.
Process and get the emotions out. And I think in previous episodes of Kabbalistic Mystic, for those of you listeners who've been with me in the past, we were talking about how the emotions, how the energy, the cosmic energy, starts with a thought, moves down to emotions, then moves down to action, and whatever's left over accumulates in. So, this is a great example for the thought becomes some kind of an emotion. And through action, the action of journaling, you are channeling that energy and causing a particular release that is then not accumulating within you. And through that, doing some kind of mental processing to really understand yourself better.
Absolutely. There's a phrase from the Dhammapada, which is words from the Buddha. It's like first, I don't know it exactly, but at first there's the thought, then there's the word, then there's the action. The action develops into habit. Habit develops into character. And so watch your thoughts with care, because whatever we're thinking about becomes our character.
Yeah, it becomes who we are.
So if we can write down our thoughts, then we can see what our words are. We can see, oh, do I have really negative patterning in my thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
Because we write it down. If I'm just thinking about it, it just kind of flits through. And this goes back to your question earlier. Why is journaling important rather than just sitting around thinking?
Yeah.
Because you actually get to see, wow, I really look at the glass of life half full.
Yeah.
Half empty, half full.
Well, it depends
half
who you
full.
are, I guess.
Depends on who you are, right? Yeah. So if you're more negative, it's half empty. If you're more positive, it's half full.
Yeah. Yeah. So
same thing.
Witness ourselves not only in our shadow, but also in the
our
positive
brightness.
stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the piece you wrote you read to us in the beginning, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, that was sort of a free writing type of thing, not lift the pen off the paper, which is an exercise I know you do in your teachings. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, about the value of this, how to use journaling as accessing the subconscious versus, the normal journaling that I usually do, which is, I have a thought, I have emotions, I feel the need to express them, I go down. But you definitely use journaling as a tool to access the subconscious. If you can talk about that a little bit, and maybe give an example for an exercise people can do.
Absolutely. So the process that I like to do is it's to set a timer for 10 or 15 minutes, or decide on a number of pages in my journal that I'm going to write. And that maybe I pick a line from a poem, or I've just got something in my head I write down, and then I write without picking up my pen for that 10 or 15 minutes, or the 3 or 4 pages that I've committed to. And what that does is it keeps you moving along. There's no you can't pause and judge yourself. It's like, just keep going. And if you can't think of anything to say, you go to the very present moment, which is often what we want to do, right? Oh, wow. Oh, this sucks. My writing sucks. My nose is running. My back hurts. Oh, wow, the sun is bright, blah, blah, blah. You just, keep going. And often it'll drop you down into something juicy. And I also use that. Not only do I use it to see kind of what I'm thinking about, what's underneath the surface thoughts of life, but I use it as a practice for my writing, my writing practice, to just work with the words and to let the phrases get kind of cattywampus or interesting, so that it's actually more interesting rather than the very structured, tight. You know what I mean? Like the tight.
Hey, no judgment there.
Sorry,
that's my writing.
No, I love your writing. But I could read you another piece, which
please.
Like, here is a writing practice description here. Yeah, and so I started with a line from a poem.
As a writing prompt?
As a writing prompt.
Okay.
And this kind of goes all over, but it gets to something.
So I just want to reference on that. The writing prompt is powerful because you choose a particular line from a poem, and it sort of accesses something in the subconscious because it triggers something.
Yeah.
So how can somebody do that if they don't have a teacher who gives them the line in the poem? Do you do that to yourself? You just choose a poem and you choose a line and say, okay, I'm going to start there.
Exactly. Like, I'll read a poem, and
could be anything, really.
It could be just like, any poem, just one line that speaks to you. Not like, oh, I'm going to write from this line, but like, oh, that's an interesting line. Or it can be from the newspaper or a magazine. Oh, that's interesting. Something that piques your curiosity.
Yeah.
So check this out. Like, this is a little longer, but you'll see how it moves into something real. Okay. And it kind of winds around. So here we go. And this is from 4 years ago, April 19th, 2012. It's somebody's birthday. The sun shimmers on a spring morning dew, At the other end of the park, the pink dogwood is swelling with buds like a 5-week pregnant woman. My toe has a cut on it, and I feel a sharp tingle with each step, and my urine smells like old lady urine, acidic, slightly putrid, like it's been held in my big mama underpants that ride high at the hips, and something with a rubber, this is the thing about reading your own, you can't read your writing, and something with a rubber white waistband. All day long, I felt discombobulated, like I'd been shaken up in a box of Cheerios and poured out, and I was swimming to find the parts of myself that show up in time, that feel peppy and perky when I pop out of bed, and the parts that are deeply motivated to work, to learn, to excel, the very Western get shit done parts. But instead, I watched 5 episodes of Grey's Anatomy, 2 in the middle of the day. I got sucked in. Will George tell Callie he had an affair? Will Burke show up again after leaving Christina at the altar? Will Meredith talk to her newfound half-sister? They've taken root in my brain, taken up space in the otherwise clear channels, the ones that want to be filled with useful information. Or maybe I'm turning into a normal, quote, person who just watches mindless, fluffy TV at the end of the day, or better yet, during the middle of the day. My princess dog sprawls on the couch in her Cleopatra lounging way, gives a sigh that suggests I'm bored, or at least that's what I think, and I'm waiting for the UPS man to deliver my new gadget, the mini milk frother, to froth my almond milk for a latte, because Starbucks doesn't have almond milk and soy makes me gassy. I told myself I'll be saving money in the long run. Isn't that how it goes? Rationalization in the long run?
So many things there, right? It's like, oh, the judgment about the watching something in the middle of the day. Well, obviously you needed it, right? Yeah.
Totally. And this is my thing, like relaxing and chilling and just doing something mindless. And, you know, you can see how, like, I obviously, I think doing things and getting shit done and being productive is the good thing.
Yeah.
But
good
just,
versus bad.
yeah. And it's, you know, it's so obvious. And then, like, all the rationalizations that we all do about, well, I really need this gadget.
Yeah.
But, you know, do we really?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I also felt in that writing the sort of the putrid, acidic old lady urine smell, like all of that just felt like sort of gritty and real and just a feeling and felt sense, but like letting myself drop into writing that felt very descriptive, you know, so kind of wandered.
Yeah. Wow, thanks for sharing that. That was a good piece. Good piece. And I want to mention, some of us are writers, some of us are not, some of us are more creative, some of us are less creative when it comes to our writing. We're all artists in a way. We all have something that we know how to do really well, and we have that seed of creativity. Absolutely. But for many of us, our writing is not it. And for whoever is out there listening and thinking, oh, wow, you write really well. I'm not, so I shouldn't be journaling. I want to say that's not what it's about.
Absolutely. So. Like if writing isn't your thing or, you know, art or any of those, it's still an amazing tool to get to know yourself. And there's so many different ways that, we can use journaling. Like here's another that I can share with you.
Yes.
Simple. This is from a vacation that I took in 2014. Very simple. So I have it's a list. It's just a list of things that happened that day. Morning kayak. Eagle circles overhead and then is gone. Wind kicks up, ripples on lake. Yellow lotus flower. Muskrat dives. Blue dragonflies zip by. Helicopter wings. 3 loons swim ahead. I get close. I move down the lake towards the end. Trees, more trees, 2 more loons. When I turn, I see I have a longer way to go. I tell myself, get comfortable, take your time. There's no rush. Simple.
Yeah.
So that's more of the list journaling where, you're just listing some phrases. And I remember that day. Like, this is 2 years ago. And I can remember, oh yeah, we went to Loon Lake and, or wherever, Jewel Lake. And I went out for that kayak ride myself, and I got really far, and I'm like, oh yeah, gotta come back.
So what you're saying is these words, just list of words evoke back the emotion that was associated with that particular experience.
Totally.
So you're mentioning that, I guess in reference to what I was saying about, like, you don't need to be a writer.
Absolutely.
All you need to do is just basically list those things. And that could be also a method of journaling when you don't have time.
It's a great, yes, the list journal is a great way to journal when you don't have time. Like, you can do it in 5 minutes. Oh, the end of the day, I'm on a trip, I'm in Greece. Oh, the Parthenon. And, and then I often like to think, what are the senses that you're experiencing? We all have our senses: sight, sound, smell, touch, taste. And to try to get some of that in so that it evokes the visceral memory for us. Hot sun. Doesn't have to be fancy words. Hot sun, cracked mud, like humid East Coast summer, and getting specific. Mm-hmm. So the list journal, very powerful, super simple, very easy to access.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about journaling as a tool for manifestation. And in the context of this particular podcast, we spoke many times that our word is creating our reality. And I can't remember which channeling book I read it. There was a very clear statement. I actually read more than one place that tracking something, putting something on paper or recording it is more powerful than just even speaking it. So journaling comes into the picture here. We can create our own lives by writing it into existence, by writing intention, so on and so forth. Tell us a little bit about your experience with journaling as a tool for manifestation, and maybe also if you can give some tips on various ways to do that.
Absolutely. That's one of the ways I've used journaling. And I remember in one of my journals, I think it was like 1999, I still have the image in my head, that I really wanted to buy a house. I was living in the Bay Area. I wanted to buy a small house down there. And I drew this picture of a body birthing a house. And then I wrote all of this stuff, about the kind of house that I wanted, and like a small little place that had a certain kind of energy. And I got very specific about it. And 2 years later, I had that small little house that I had written about. So what I've noticed, so I give that as an example, and I've done that about relationship. I've done it about many, many things, actually, things that I've wanted to manifest, because that is how we, just like you said, we have the thought, then we have the word, we can speak the word, but if we write it down and we actually do images with it, and you don't have to be an artist to draw, you can pick out pictures in a magazine and put those pictures down in a journal, images that way, that when the thing we want to manifest is then spoken into the journal, it's a powerful act to the universe, the creator, God, whatever we want to call that force that is working with us, that is helping things come into form, that it's a very clear message that this is what we're seeking. What I have noticed is that the timing isn't always what you think it's going to be. So, I have sometimes felt like I've failed because things, I wrote it down in my journal and it didn't manifest within a month, Well,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, you got to give it a
Doesn't
little
work this
time.
way. Yeah.
So patience. And then also if it's something that, for example, a job or maybe going to school or some new career or some new skill, like learning a musical instrument. Well, it's not done in a day or a week or a month. We actually have to put in time to learn the skill, to learn the new tool and techniques and all of that. So, energy's working with us, but we also have to put in our time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what you're saying is journaling is an art.
Mm-hmm.
And just like anything, over, the more you practice, the more authentic your voice will be, the more you'll get familiar with that tool, the more intimate you will be, the better you'll be at manifesting, manifestation itself.
Well, not quite. I was actually using that as an example, like that whenever we do something, but it's true, journaling is an art.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking more like if we wanted to, say, become a doctor, or we wanted to learn the ukulele, or we wanted to learn to paint.
Right, we still have to show up.
We still have to show up.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
It's not like, oh, I want to learn to paint, and I've tried it 3 times, and I'm not a great artist. Yeah. Well,
Got it. Yeah, of course. And, in that context, also, you can't really control the outer world. You can only control your world. So say, oh, I want so-and-so to fall in love with me. Might not work.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that, when you try to manifest things like, oh, I want to win the lottery, right?
All right.
It's not really, what you're really saying is I want to have a lot of money, right? And be careful what you wish for, right? In this particular example. But not everything that you write specifically is going to happen the way you write it. But when we circle back to journaling, it's just a really, really good tool to tell the universe what you want. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you still have to show up.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a partnership.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. So we spoke about the journal as a tool for manifestation. We spoke about it as a best friend. We spoke about various ways to journal, like the list journaling and accessing the subconscious by not lifting the pen. We spoke about some of the obstacles. If you think you can express yourself, it's okay. Just do it. And privacy. So maybe a few good examples for various journal prompts for those who are just beginning. I know I have a few that you've stated in your mind, but maybe if you have some, or if there's anything else you want to share with us.
Well, yeah, I was thinking one of the simplest things to do in terms of getting to know ourselves is to write a list, 25 things about myself. And it's 25 things about myself now, not, last year or 2 years ago or when I was a kid, but 25 things about. And so things, just riffing right here, because I don't have that particular thing in front of me, but it could be 1, I eat chocolate every day. 2, I take my dogs for walks by the river.
Well, let's do back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, 1, I eat chocolate every day.
And you take your dogs.
And I take my dogs for a walk by the river.
Okay. Wow,
2.
This is harder to...
2.
Oh, we have to keep the counting?
Yeah, keep the count.
Okay, good to know. But that's a requirement. Okay, wow, it's harder than you think.
Boom, don't think about it.
Oh, just
2.
kind of shoot it out of my belly type of thing. 2, I drink my Starbucks, my special Starbucks drink every week or so. It's kind of like my special time.
3, I live across from a park where there's a tennis court.
I love standing in the shower for. The counting confuses me. Can you count in your head for us? Okay, thank you. It's totally throwing me off. We're all different.
Okay.
I love standing in the shower for a long amount of time and just sink into my thoughts.
5, we're getting our house painted and a first layer of gray went on today.
6, I love doing this podcast.
7, I'm waiting for my back to release. It got tweaked sleeping in the camper van.
8, I am noticing how hard it is for me to speak about myself.
9, my mouth is dry.
10, I haven't had anything to eat today.
And so there you go. You see how it goes. It's like,
So what's the value of listing these random things about yourself?
well, so first of all, what you noticed, and it was a great example, is when you're sitting there by yourself, it's, we're doing it as fast as we can. 1, 2, 3, 4, and without thinking. And so what I noticed and observed about you, you're like, oh, I feel put on the spot. There's all of that energy of like, oh my God, I can't think of anything. And then you got to a truth. Oh, it's hard for me to speak about myself.
Right.
Right there. And that's interesting. And then maybe you dive down after that. Oh, because when I was a kid,
So it can become a writing prompt.
it can. And the 1, 2, 3. So, if you did 25 things about me every day for a month,
Wow.
they would all be different. And it would be very interesting to see. And but not stopping and pausing and thinking. This is the same as like, do it as fast as you can. Don't think about it and don't judge it.
So when you said 25 things about myself, I immediately thought, oh, 25 things I like about myself, or 25 things that describe me. So you're really saying
Anything.
just 25 things about my current state of existence,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Like,
okay.
Oh, 1, if I'd been doing it 10 years ago, here's a little piece. 1, I'm a yoga teacher and I smoke a cigarette after dinner every night, and I try to hide that from my students.
Wow. Okay.
Boom.
Yeah.
Truth, but
Yeah.
hard to face truth, because I'm still in the process of wanting no one to know that.
Yeah. Well, if it was 10 years
If
ago.
it were 10 years
right,
ago.
Right. Exactly.
Now I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Okay. Here's one, 50 from 15 years ago or whatever. I'm a business owner in Las Vegas, and instead of working on my business, all I can think about is how to get a girlfriend.
Exactly.
Right.
And then we see who we are in the moment,
Yeah,
because we
totally.
start to practice speaking our truth to ourselves. And it doesn't have to be big truths. It can be like, someone who's working with body stuff. 1, I hate my thighs.
Got it. Yeah.
2, I have I have a soft belly.
Yeah.
3, and then to start to also, you can do 25 things I love about myself. You do 25 things I struggle with about myself.
Or maybe even shorter, like 5 things I love about my body.
Yeah.
10 things I do love
Yeah.
about my body, so on and so forth.
So
Okay.
these are really great beginning practices. They're simple. They don't require, the whole point is to know ourselves and
Yeah.
then to become more free so that we can just be ourselves and not try to be the people we think we should be so that other people will love us. So our parents will still love us. So our partners will love us. So our kids will love us. And so that we will love ourselves. Like, one of my things right now, I'm still working on not being like Miss Productivity, and that I value myself only when I'm productive.
Type A type of thing.
Yeah, it's like a whole type A, like, oh, well, I'm asking myself, what is success? What does success really mean?
That's a good prompt. Success to me is...
Yeah.
I want to name a couple of writing prompts that you've given me over the years.
Oh, yeah.
What did I love doing as a kid? When I was a kid, I loved doing blah.
Yeah.
I'll write all these writing prompts in the show notes, everybody. Yeah. Well, at least I hope I'll remember all of them. I'll review it. And another one was a long due apology letter. So like pick, somebody or something, could be yourself, that you always needed to apologize to but never did, or, whatever comes. Mm-hmm. And writing this apology letter that you'll never send. Mm-hmm. And I think you did that in a class. You run a Zen to paper. It was your journaling class.
Yeah.
And I think we had somebody in the class who said that they actually sent it. No, I
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Powerful.
Very powerful. Yeah. Or who do I in my life do I love but haven't told them in a while?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Another writing prompt that I liked was, the sad truth about myself is. That's intense. See what comes out after that.
That's interesting.
Or the, yeah. Okay. Maybe a word about gratitude journaling.
Oh, gratitude journaling. That is a great practice. So I started doing that about 4 years ago with a lot of conviction. I felt like I was somebody who kind of suffered from looking at life half empty glass.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that caused in me was a lot of dissatisfaction. I was always looking for something, and I'm still working on that, but always looking for something, not happy with what I already had. And so gratitude practicing that every day became a way to look at the abundance and the amazing life that I already have. And I think that we can all do that and look at the simple things. I'm not talking about, oh my God, I'm so grateful I live in this mansion. It's like, or, if that's your life, but, like, oh, grateful for the breath, to take another breath, grateful that my legs are strong and can move me from place to place. I'm grateful to have love in my life and to name people we love. And
simple things. Yeah.
Simple thing. Grateful that I have shelter and that I have warmth in the winter. I mean, think about all the homeless people, and not to compare, but like, not everybody has that.
Right.
And so to really look deeper and deeper into our own lives and the abundance that actually is there. And I'll tell you, it changed my life in many ways. It became, like, I felt like I was happier, and that I appreciated my life more, and I appreciated my relationship more, and I appreciated all of the things that I kind of could gloss over and take for granted.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Gratitude. And did you keep a separate journal for gratitude? I know you, some people, we spoke about in episode 7 about journaling for dream journaling, and that it's good to keep a separate journal for that. What about gratitude? Would you recommend a separate one?
Yeah. I have a separate gratitude journal. It's very simple. I would, the way I did it was I would write down like 5 things I was grateful for in the evening before I went to bed. And I just kept it by my bed. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm really grateful for, and a lot of it was people, because I would think of people I saw in the day, or maybe talk to, or maybe the person I didn't even know, like the UPS person who brought a package or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
if he was good looking, that is.
I kept it separate, because otherwise I'd have to dig through my journals to see all the gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Diane, I want to thank you for joining us. I know you're going to be taking a little bit of a break from teaching for a little while, because you're going on a journey.
Yes.
In a 1982 VW van to the national parks.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm heading out for 4 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Good
Thank
for you.
you.
And if somebody wants to get more information about you, and potentially to follow your trip, you're not sure if you're going to blog as you're
I'll
driving.
do a little blogging.
Yeah, they can find information about you and about future potential courses. I know you're probably going to go back to teach journaling at some point.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to kind of be notified when you do, they can contact you via ibelove.com. That's IBELOVE.com.
That's correct.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to share or tell?
No, I
listeners?
just want to say thank you for having me on the show. And if anybody has questions or thoughts, they can contact me through my website. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And thank you for all those valuable lessons about journaling. I've been journaling for many, many years, but you sort of gave it structure and helped me journal in a way that was much deeper and accessing areas that I didn't know existed. So thank you so much. Yeah, and good luck on your trip.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
This concludes the 13th episode of Kabbalistic Mystic. I want to thank Diane Sherman, who shared her wisdom and experience with us today. If you think others can benefit from this information, please share Kabbalistic Mystic with others or review it on iTunes. Reviews are very important for podcasters like me and will help me sustain the show. To review the show, it's very easy. Go to kabbalisticmystic.com/review or go to the website and click podcasts and then review on iTunes from the top menu for simple instructions. And I also want to remind you that I welcome your questions and will be happy to answer them on the show. You can submit them via the website or the Facebook page. As I stated in the beginning, I'm leaving for a summer vacation. The next episode of Kabbalistic Mystic will be released on August 21st. I'm your host, Ovadia Batat from Spokane, Washington, wishing you love in every moment.